I believe the whole multiple streams of income advice being given by tons of people is actually hurting more people than it's helping. And so I'm going to share with you guys my experience with multiple streams of income. So, and not just my experience, but what I've seen with other people too, and why I think it's very, very harmful when taken out of context. The thought that most people have when they think about, all right, Brandon, it makes sense to have income coming from multiple different places. I'm being diversified, yes, but this goes against the whole concept of the one thing. Great book, by the way, by Gary Keller. And that has been my experience. And so I'll walk you through what happened to me. So when I left the mortgage industry and got into the real estate business, that was my one thing. I focused on one thing, got really, really good at it. And at the peak was selling over 100 homes by myself with one assistant and one agent taking all my buyers, but the 100 deals were my deals. I was not including the buyers that my buyer's agent was doing. And that represented about $750,000 in income. And that was my sole focus. What happened was, like many people, is you start getting approached by all these different opportunities when you start succeeding in your special power, in your one thing. So that's what happened. I since then have, agents started to reach out for coaching. This was probably 7 years ago. This is when the birth of reverseselling.com came to fruition. And so I started coaching agents about 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. And that really took off to what it is today. And now we've got 4,000 coaching clients all over North America. Spread me pretty damn thin. Then what happened next was I started to say to myself, okay, cool. Well, what is the next thing for me in my career? Well, naturally, like a lot of young people that reach a level of success, ego starts to kick in. And I said, I can take on more. So what did I do? I started my own brokerage firm, like a lot of maybe you guys are thinking about doing, and I'm going to be making a lot of content on that specifically and my experience with that. We have about 250 agents right now and doing $700 million a year in sales. And I said, well, naturally, if I have a real estate brokerage firm, I need to have a mortgage company to service all the buyers that our agents have. So we started a mortgage company. And naturally, because we have the mortgage company and the real estate brokerage, we need the title company. So we need multiple streams of income, right? This is the thought process. Here's the thing. Since my, really what has happened to me is nothing but more stress, spread more thin, and my income has actually gone the opposite direction until just recently. And what I learned through this was the time horizon is important. The context on that is important. This was all over the last 5 years, right? And so, when I was focused on one thing, had great control over my time. I was working 5 days a week, like 4.5 days a week. I would work a half day Friday. I never worked weekends or nights because I was 100% focused on listings, selling 100 homes a year, everything dialed in, making, $750,000. That point over the last 5 years, income went all the way down because I was stretched so thin, stress very, very, very high, because you only have a finite amount of energy and focus. And so let's just call it, if you have 10 units of focus, just for easy math, and you're spreading those 10 units of focus over 4, 5, 6 things, and there's more to come, versus all 10 units of focus on one thing, that one thing will outperform the other things. That's been my experience. And so I'm working on some things right now to my team, and I'm kind of all over the place, but it'll make sense in a second. We just went through Essentialism, which is another great book, talking about the power of focusing on, yet again, one thing and just the vital few. So in this journey, we've also started, ISA companies and lead generation companies and moving companies and inspection companies, all kinds of stuff. And every single time, in my own experience, it has hurt me. It has hurt the people that I serve, whether that be my business partners or the consumer, the clients, or the people that work there, because I haven't been able to give my attention the way I want to. So in my experience, the whole multiple streams of income has not proven to make sense. And in addition to that, the whole time, I can't believe I almost forgot to put this in this video. That's what this whole video is about. The whole time, over the past, call it 15 years, my wife and I have been investing in single family residential real estate, right? Another thing to take away the focus. Now, a lot of people say, okay, well, that's passive. Bullshit. Bullshit. If you have rental real estate and you're managing them, which we are, yeah, we could have hired a management company, but still deal with bullshit. Tenants are calling you, tenants are moving out, tenants are screwing stuff up. You got to deal with this, you got to deal with that. We need a plumber, we need this, we need that. We didn't pay the rent, we got to do this. There's accounting, there's all kinds of shit you got to deal with. And here's the thing. On residential real estate, yeah, my returns were good. I was beating the S&P. I was beating the stock market. We were getting about a 20% cash on cash return, which is better than most investments out there. It wasn't near what I could earn on the income side. And so let me give you some actual numbers. On a rental property, we would earn $500 a month in net positive cash flow, which was a 20% return on the cash I put into that property. So it's $6,000 a year. Okay. And so $6,000 a year, I mean, I can make that in an hour. And so for a year's worth of work on the rentals, we had a bunch of them. And so the thought that most people have is like, oh, I'll just get a bunch of these rentals. Yeah, in theory, it's great. What I always tell my business partners now is like, anybody can get rich on a spreadsheet. And I just love that. And I don't know where I picked that up from, but if you think about it, like people are constantly putting together business plans and, spreadsheets and like, look, if we do this many things, they're like calculating it all. And they're like, if we do this and we do this, look at how much money we can make. Yeah, on a spreadsheet. And then when it comes to actually doing it, it's a whole nother thing. And so through my own experience and getting as much mentorship as I have, here's the other truth that I know to be true. I'll give you some great examples. The people in which have successfully monetized on a multiple stream of income strategy didn't start that way. They started with one thing first for a long time. It was like a palm tree, right? So the palm tree straight out of the ground, they did one thing for 5, 10, 15 years before they started branching out and doing different things. And people take that out of context and say, well, wait a minute, Warren Buffett, he's got all these companies. Dan Gilbert's got all these companies. Well, Dan Gilbert at Quicken Loans didn't start off with 47 companies. He had a mortgage company he had one company for 20 years before he opened his second company. It's only now, 40 years later, he has multiple streams of income. That approach, a lot of people are taking to say, well, see, he's doing it, then it must make sense. When you take it out of context, it doesn't make sense. You have to own something. In my experience, I believe you have to own something, focus on one thing, do exactly what books like Essentialism talk about, Gary Keller's One Thing. Focus on one thing. Fight the urge and the distractions to do all these other shiny objects for a very, very, very long time. until that one thing is super successful, till you're at the top, the pinnacle of what it is that you're doing. And only, and here's the key takeaway from this video. In my experience, this is how we've made it work. Only when you can have a leader in place to 100% run the company can you branch off and do something else, because that something else will need all your attention to build and be successful yet again. And you can multiply it through that strategy. That is the only thing that has really worked for me, because to try to think that you can do it all like I did, because I had a massive, massive ego, really hurt me bad. I mean, in all ways, in all ways, right? So like financially, health. I mean, you guys saw the transformation I've made in the last year. I've lost 55 pounds. I mean, I was fat and I was out of shape and I was stressed out and I was working all the time. And so now as I'm on this path of like clarity, trying to really hone my craft as a leader in this real estate industry, I'm really trying to focus on this same advice to say, okay, what is the thing that I'm going to really focus on, and have leaders in place so that businesses can have the greatest opportunity to succeed. Because the thought of me trying to take on the world and have 14 businesses, it's just not good for the businesses. It just doesn't work. In theory, it works great. Like on the whiteboard and on the spreadsheets, dude, fucking phenomenal. The problem is when you start going and you're stretched so thin and there's almost so much time in the day, and you start dropping the ball, it's like, well, fuck, I can't do all of this. I'm letting everybody down, and this is terrible. How is it that people, this multiple stream of income thing, that's what's happened to me. So I'm curious to see if that has been your experience. But for me, it's been the more I can focus on one thing for a long period of time, use all my units of focus on one thing, that one thing really I can drive that one thing and be very successful in that one thing. It's when I start to spread myself thin where bad things start to happen for me. So let me know what your thoughts are, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.